Space, the final frontier. It has always been speculated that there is adventure and even life beyond our planet. With so many possibilities for advancements, it is truly fascinating whenever anything is discovered. You never know what small finding will lead to something big and what big findings will be revolutionary. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look at recent space discoveries. NASA scientists detect evidence of a parallel universe where time runs backwards. For decades, our TV screens have been riddled with science fiction shows, weaving stories of parallel universes and describing realms filled with time travel and aliens alike. Well, new research as recent as 2020 suggests that these ideas are not quite so far-fetched, as scientists describe actions of particles resembling expectations of parallel universes, where both the rules of time and physics appear to be inverted to our own. The idea of a multiverse has not always been confined to our comic books and fictional tales. It has been suggested for numerous years that there is a likelihood of a multiverse existing, and subsequent research that has been conducted for years now has taken this possibility into account. One often cited area of physics that has considered the possibility of a parallel universe is quantum mechanics, with the many-worlds theory first proposed by American physicist Hugh Everett III in 1957 whilst completing his doctoral thesis at Princeton University. This informed his relative state formulation, which has impacted the field for decades now. Whilst undeniably influential, the impact of the many-worlds interpretation has not been isolated nor uncontested by any means. At the time of publication by Everett, the leading, dominating, and ultimately competing theory was the Copenhagen interpretation, a wider explanation of quantum physics with a much broader meaning and more contradictory ideas within it. Even today, the Copenhagen interpretation dominates the discourse and discussions of quantum mechanics. Or will that change with this new 2020 discovery? An experiment aiming to detect cosmic rays appears to have discovered particles that many scientists have suggested are from a universe, world, or realm that is parallel to our own. If a universe of this nature genuinely exists, current theories suggest that its formation likely coincides with our own, being born via the Big Bang. These leading field experts used apparatus described as a giant balloon to move NASA's Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, also known as ANITA, to above Antarctica. Antarctica made for an ideal location for the employment of this technology, as the environmental factors, including dry air and a distinct lack of radio noise, left few extraneous variables to distort and corrupt the data and findings. We discovered here that Earth has a constant arrival of high-energy particles entering our atmosphere from outer space. It has been well established that low-energy particles, known as subatomic neutrinos with a mass nearing zero, are able to pass through Earth with ease. We also believed until now that the particles with high energy have been unable to pass through our planet, being stopped by the solid matter of Earth itself. This new research, conflicting with established premises, has been assumed to indicate that these particles are coming up out of the Earth, emitting particles with a heavier mass, known as tau neutrinos, as detected by ANITA. The previous idea, however, had been that we were experiencing high-energy particles coming down from outer space to the Earth. So what do scientists think this inverted trajectory means? Simply put, many physicists believe that these new bizarre particles are traveling back in time, providing possible evidence to support the idea of a parallel universe where the time runs backwards to our own. Experimental particle physicist Peter Gorham and principal ANITA investigator explained that the only other explanation as to the odd behavior of the tau neutrino particle is that it had somehow shifted into a new particle before passing through the Earth and then changing back into its original state once again. Of course, many skeptics were quick to voice an opinion here. Despite this phenomenon having seemingly limited explanations, though we cannot be certain either way as to exactly what is happening with the tau neutrino particle. Will more particles arise to support the idea of a backwards parallel universe? Or will this discovery simply become the future material of a sci-fi episode? Mysterious kick just after the Big Bang may have created dark matter. The Big Bang is a mysterious and mind-boggling thing to comprehend. It was the instant that all matter in the universe was created and has understandably been the focus of much research. The same sort of interest lies with dark matter too, the mysterious substance that is ever present but is totally ignorant of light. And it turns out the two areas might be more connected than we think. In the universe, there is both matter and antimatter in equal quantities. When they come into contact, they cancel each other out and are destroyed. And yet, when all the matter and antimatter in the universe were first created, they should have instantly annihilated themselves. But since we are here, that clearly didn't happen. New research suggests that in the very early universe, there was some sort of trigger, some sort of kick that produced a surplus of matter. This answers the question of why there is a greater amount of matter compared to antimatter today. Subsequently, it could be because of this kick that dark matter came into existence. The biggest issue with dark matter is, well, we do not really know what exactly it is. We know that it exists, and we know that it takes up about 80% of all matter in the universe. That means with everything we can observe from Earth, all the galaxies, stars, planets, and moons, it is all just a fraction of how much dark matter is out there. But the perplexing thing is that although dark matter takes up much of the universe, it does not seem to have much of an effect on it. As reported in Live Science, when one process dominates an interaction, it really takes over. Unless other physics comes into play, rarely do two competing forces come out in balance. This can be shown in the process of when stars collapse. Gravity and electromagnetism are in competition inside of the star until gravity eventually dominates and the star collapses and becomes a black hole. The paper is just the tip of the iceberg in our understanding of dark matter, but it does lead us down a potential path for discovering the truth. Hubble finds Betelgeuse mysterious dimming is due to a traumatic outburst. The red supergiant star Betelgeuse, part of the Orion constellation and the namesake of the hit 80s Beetlejuice film character, has been dimming in an unexplained and unexpected manner, leaving a cloud of dust emitting from the surface of the star. According to observations made by NASA's Hubble Space Telescope beginning in February 2019, researchers have suggested that this dust cloud was first formed due to superhot plasma being released from a large convection cell passing through the star's atmosphere and out into the much colder outer layers. This then cooled down in the outer layers before turning into grains of dust. The current belief is that the dust cloud was blocking the light from the star, making it appear dimmer when looking on. By the April of 2020, Betelgeuse was returned to its normal state. Though in February of 2020, the reduced brightness of the star was visible from Earth with the naked eye. 1/4 of the surface had been blocked with the believed dust. Though at the peak of the blocking, the brightness of the star was actually reduced by more than 2/3 of its usual shine. The most commonly believed theory is the dust cloud, though others have suggested a star spot covering the visible surface. Scientists have been tracing the images captured by Hubble in the lead-up to the dimming, looking back from January 2019. The ultraviolet light spectroscopic observations of Betelgeuse captured by Hubble are being studied to find clues as to what exactly caused the dimming. The analysis of the star is part of an ongoing 3-year study looking to research the variations in the atmosphere of the star, as it is known to expand and contract on a 420-day cycle. The ultraviolet light sensitivity allowed researchers to probe the surface of the star, which is not visible without the Hubble's equipment, due to the 20,000 degree Fahrenheit surface temperature. The hot, dense material continued to move beyond the visible surface of the star, eventually to millions of miles away. The outburst of material, eventually cooling to form a dust, has an unknown route. There have been some suggestions that the pulsation cycle of Betelgeuse, which did maintain regularity, has aided the perceived dimming, as changes in the velocity of the gas upon Betelgeuse's surface were seen to be fluctuated as measured by the Stellar Activity, an automated telescope from the Leibniz Institute for Astrophysics. Regardless as to the true cause of the dimming, from spring 2020 onwards, Betelgeuse seems to have returned to its normal bright state, with the atmosphere having returned to a visibly normal state too. The black hole at the center of the Milky Way may be something even more mysterious. If there is one element of space that continues to mystify scientists, it is black holes. And the gaping black hole at the center of the Milky Way, named Sagittarius A star, is perhaps one of the most mysterious of them all. For starters, astronomers have long observed the strange flashing bursts of radio waves, X-rays, and gamma rays being emitted in regular intervals from Sagittarius A star. But recent observations of bursts that were up to 100 times brighter than the regular bursts made researchers believe that even more mysterious elements might be at play, and they were eager to find out more. To accomplish this feat, they began to analyze the 15 years of data collected by NASA's Neil Gehrels Swift Observatory satellite, which is dedicated to detecting gamma-ray bursts like those seen coming from Sagittarius 8 star. The team, made up of international researchers led by Alexis Andres, were looking for any sort of regular patterns or activity that might tell them a little bit about these strange occurrences. Although no clear patterns emerged, they did notice that the frequency increased greatly between the years February 2006 and February 2008, with a much lower rate of activity the following 4 years before picking back up again in 2012. However, this second, more recent batch of bursts appears to follow a much different pattern from the first, puzzling researchers even more. As observation is one of the only methods we currently have at our disposal to research such enigmas as black holes, scientists hope that adding this backlog of data to the findings unfolding in present day will help to remove some of the mystery surrounding these central flares. Further study will hopefully be able to tell us exactly what is causing these bursts, be it from passing gaseous clouds, stars, or something else altogether. Co-author of the study, Dr. Jacob van den Eden, from the University of Oxford said, "How the flares occur exactly remains unclear. It was previously thought that more flares follow after gaseous clouds or stars pass by the black hole, but there is no evidence for that yet, and we cannot yet confirm the hypothesis that the magnetic properties of the surrounding gas play a role either. And, certainly, when it comes to solving this mystery, having access to databases full of observations taken over the past 15 years helps tremendously as researchers look to the environment around Sagittarius A star for clues that could help them piece together this massive, mysterious puzzle lurking at the center of our galaxy. The Great Attractor. On planet Earth, gravitational force is inevitable as everything that goes up comes down eventually. The Great Attractor, just as the name suggests, attracts galaxies to itself just like the way a magnet does to metal. It operates as a gravitational anomaly. The Great Attractor is a gravitational abnormality in intergalactic space and the apparent central gravitational point of the Laniakea supercluster. When observed, the Great Attractor is difficult to be envisioned, as it is inconveniently obscured by large clusters of galaxies in our Milky Way's galactic plane. A lot of astronomers have been curious if planet Earth is safe with the discovery of the existence of the Great Attractor by NASA. The Great Attractor was explored and discovered by NASA to have been located on the border of Triangulum, Australia, and Norma. This field covers part of the Norma cluster as well as a dense area of our own galaxy, the Milky Way. The Norma cluster is the closest massive galaxy cluster to the Milky Way and lies about 220 million light-years away. The Great Attractor was recorded by astronomers to be an enormous concentration of masses and occupies a region of space which dominates our region of the universe. One of the distinguished characteristics of the Great Attractor also is that the gravitational abnormality is observable by its effects on the motion of galaxies and their associated clusters over a region of hundreds of millions of light-years across, its visibility inconvenient to observe at optical wavelengths. A whole range of tactics need to be in place for observations such as infrared or radio observations, but the region just behind the center of the Milky Way where visibility is obscured remains yet a complete mystery to astronomers. Within the last few years, SpaceX has become one of the leaders in space exploration. The most recent news was that the company was picked by NASA to build the human lunar lander. This was an honor as it would have been the first lunar lander since the Apollo program. However, it's just been announced that NASA has suspended work on the almost $3 billion lander. A NASA spokeswoman said the following, that she went to the GAO protest. NASA instructed SpaceX that progress on the contract has been suspended until GAO resolves all outstanding litigation related to this procurement. End quote. SpaceX, though, has a busy year ahead of them in terms of launches and are still working on the human Mars mission. Elon said the following, "You want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great, and that's what being a space-frame civilization is all about. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past, and I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being among the stars." End quote. Right now, though, there's a group of people that are asking Elon to go to the moon and investigate a mysterious anomaly, saying that whatever this thing is, it needs to be investigated as it looks like a giant ship. The individual who found this craft is Scott C. Waring, a vocal UFO researcher who's claimed he's found various UFOs and ships in space, although NASA have replied to some of these claims and debunked them as camera anomalies and other occurrences that happen in space. Regardless, Mr. Waring believes this large craft is the real deal and even said the first space company to reach this could potentially uncover advanced tech. He said the following about the discovery: "When looking over the Apollo 15 panoramic images, I came across a photo that has a mother ship in it. It's not a cloud. Clouds do not exist on the moon. So, I enlarged the photo and saw that not only was it a ship, it looked very similar to the Starship Voyager from Star Trek." End quote. He goes on to claim that the ship in question measures over 10.6 kilometers or 6.5 miles. Amateur researchers have come forward in recent years and claim they found similar-looking objects in old photographs, and they say this proves that there's more going on than what we're being told about, and in some cases the National Aeronautics and Space Administration is even editing out these images in the hopes that we won't see them. Amateur researchers say they do this because they think the majority of the population found out about these things, they would just panic. Recently, he along with other researchers have asked Elon to consider checking out the location, saying that this could be the discovery of a lifetime and could help us to answer the old age question of whether we're truly alone in the universe. This isn't the first time that someone has asked this from Elon. With all of the recent SpaceX launches, some watchers have claimed they've seen UFOs close to the rockets, saying that whatever these things are, they're clearly interested in our tech, as every time we send a rocket into space, these unidentified flying objects can be seen buzzing the crowds. However, these people may be preaching to the wrong person, as in the past Elon has been quite vocal about the fact that he's never seen any evidence to suggest that UFOs are genuine. He did say it's likely that consciousness might exist in the vastness of space, but also said if there were UFOs out there, he would know about them. Going on to say the following: "I've seen nothing to indicate there are any alien civilizations whatsoever. I'd be the first to jump on that in a second, but I've seen no such evidence." End quote. He also went on to criticize UFO photographs, saying that the majority of them are blurry and you can't make out what the object is. Some people hit back at this though and said that the majority of eyewitnesses aren't expecting to see them, which causes the photos to be blurry. Also, as mentioned by photographers and eyewitnesses, they've said that it's incredibly hard to take a photograph of a UFO on an everyday smartphone, saying that they're not designed to take photographs of fast-moving objects hundreds of feet in the sky. Believers have said it's one of the most frustrating things that people say when talking about UFOs, as until what happens to you, you don't understand how hard it is to photograph a UFO. For years now, UFO researchers have said the moon is a hotspot for UFOs, even going as far as saying it's one of the best places to see mysterious crowds. This has led to amateur researchers coming through NASA's huge library in the hopes of finding something of interest. One photograph that did stump NASA was this one. It's being called the break-off, and it shows what looks like a large object hovering close to the moon. Some have said it could be a chunk of the moon that came off, but UFO believers have said it looks like an unidentified flying object. Oddly enough, in the next photo that was taken by the space agency, the object can no longer be seen. The photograph is still in NASA's archives, and various newspapers reached out to the space agency in the hopes of getting an answer for this object is. NASA spokeswoman Lynette Madison said that people are too quick to label things as UFOs, but said that the photograph is strange and that as of right now they can't explain what it is. Scientists have just announced that they may have finally made a complete digital model for the mysterious Antikythera mechanism, which is hailed by many researchers as being the world's first computer. Although scientists have known about this device for years, they were never able to replicate the mechanism, answer certain questions about how it was used or what drove the device, and couldn't really reveal much about how it was created. But researchers based at the University of London has said they've finally been able to fully recreate the design. Retrieved from a shipwreck back in May of 1902 off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, after which the machine has been named after. The Antikythera mechanism has put historians and archaeologists in a tight spot after engineers analyzed the machine and realized what it was designed for and its overall purpose. The mechanism itself appears to be an early type of analog computer and was built to be so precise and accurate that it could predict astronomical positions. Eclipses the 4-year cycle of the athletic games, the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games, and other important events decades in advance. After intensive carbon dating, it was found that the Antikythera machine was created by Greek scientists between 151 eons ahead of previously no knowledge about the extensive intelligence and craftsmanship of the ancient Greek civilization. This meant that the device seemed to have held advanced information that archaeologists, historians, and other experts did not believe existed for another few centuries. Many have begun to speculate that perhaps our early ancestors were far more capable than we may have ever realized, and that perhaps their technology was much more advanced than we could have ever known. This has only worked to challenge modern theories of ancient civilizations and has led some theorists to believe that perhaps there were more analog computer devices around the same time. Although many treasures had been excavated from the seafloor during an expedition in 1976, underwater explorers who conducted the more recent expedition noticed several features around the site that might indicate that even more treasures still remain buried out of sight that lead explorers to continue to excavate and test the sites. And this was worth doing as their suspicions and patience paid off. First wooden hull remains along with large bronze nails and spikes that were used in construction of the hull began to be uncovered. The researchers at the University of London have said they're going to put their creation to their test and see if the copy design works. One of the researchers who worked on the project said the following: "Our work reveals the Antikythera mechanism as a beautiful conception translated by superb engineering into a device of genius. It challenges all our preconceptions about the technological capabilities of the ancient Greeks." End quote. The main reason for the researchers recreating the device is because there's still many unanswered questions with them, saying it just goes to show how ahead this is because it's taken them a long time to get to this point and yet we still have many questions. Another researcher said the following: "The distance between this device's complexity and others made at the same time is infinite. Frankly, there's nothing like it that's ever been found. It's out of this world. What is it doing on that ship? We only found 1/3. Where are the other 2/3? Have they corroded away? Did it ever work?" These are questions that we can only really answer through experimental archaeology. It's like answering how they built Stonehenge. Let's get 200 people with some rope and a big stone and try to pull it across Salisbury Plain. That's a bit like what we're trying to do. There's no evidence that the ancient Greeks were able to build something like this. It really is a mystery. The only way to test if they could is try to build it the ancient Greek way, and there's also a lot of debate about who it was for and who built it. A lot of people say it was Archimedes. He lived around the same time it was constructed, and no one else had the same level of engineering ability that he did. It was also a Roman shipwreck. Archimedes was taken out by Romans. End quote. Although researchers are closer to recreating this incredible device, we are still no closer to understanding how they built it. Interestingly, this isn't the first time that Archimedes' name has popped up when talking about advanced creations. One of his best inventions was the mythical heat ray that was used by Archimedes to fight back an entire army. According to the legend, back in February, inventor and philosopher Archimedes was at the shore of a massive siege between his own people and a number of Roman warships during the siege of Syracuse. Made entirely aware that his people were both outnumbered and outmatched, Archimedes began constructing what was referred to as a burning glass that would be able to burn the Roman warships and protect his people. A number of the legends and different variations exist. The claims he used one large mirror to reflect the direct sunlight, whereas others claim he used the shields of 70 soldiers to redirect the light at the warships to catch them on fire. This legend has often been challenged by a number of researchers, claiming that such a story is completely fabricated and that the physics of the encounter doesn't seem to add up. This led to the TV show Mythbusters attempting to recreate the event, only to find that they were unable to ignite a model ship. Regardless of these finds, many still believe the event had occurred at one time. Given the fact that the legend has been recorded by both Greek and Roman historians, and after discoveries such as the Antikythera mechanism, it does make you question how many other inventions have been lost to time. Even though you might have seen Jurassic Park, you probably do not know much about how dinosaurs really looked and lived. Paleontologists are also unclear on many fundamental aspects of dinosaur life. The good news is, today we are bringing you up to speed on the dinosaur world. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at fascinating unsolved dinosaur debates. Did dinosaurs have lips? If you ask the average person to close their eyes and imagine a Tyrannosaurus Rex, chances are the image would resemble the terrifying predator shown in Jurassic Park. A paleontologist, however, might envision a vastly different dinosaur. The T-Rex of cinema is fierce, hyper-masculine, and grateful, marketing dinosaur action figures to young boys, but it is probably not scientifically accurate. The T-Rex that truly walked this earth likely had a softer image, and this may be partially attributed to lips. Tyrannosaurus Rex, whose name means tyrant king of the lizards, is typically portrayed with long and exposed sets of sharp teeth. However, this depiction is contradicted by research presented in 2016 by paleontologist Robert R. Reyes at a meeting of the Canadian Society of Vertebrate Paleontology. Reyes argues that much of the dinosaur's teeth were covered by lips and gum. The theory comes from the mouths of present-day reptiles. Reyes observed that while crocodiles are lipless, monitor lizards have teeth partially hidden by scaly lips, similar to what is seen in media portrayals of velociraptors. The enamel of teeth, low in water, needs saliva for hydration. Part of this can be accomplished by lips. Since crocodiles spend so much time in a wet environment, lips are not necessary to prevent their teeth from drying out. Because T-Rex lived on land, Rees hypothesizes that they, like monitor lizards, need scaly lips to protect their teeth and keep them hydrated. It is likely that gums also played an important role in protecting T-Rex teeth. Paleontologists can predict the placement of gums in the mouth of their dinosaur by looking at where the enamel stops in tooth fossils. This means part of a T-Rex's teeth would be hidden by gums, causing them to appear much shorter than what we see in popular media. Despite Rees' evidence, the appearance of T-Rex lips is still contested among the paleontology community. In 2017, researchers looked at a specimen of Daspletosaurus hornerii, a genus of the tyrannosaurids, and their observations led them to question the validity of Rees' ideas. The researchers were able to match the bone textures of the skull of D. hornerii with the probable skin types of the living dinosaur by comparing the skull to present-day species. Similarities in facial nerves and arteries helped the research team reconstruct the Tyrannosaurus, revealing commonalities between skull features of D. hornerii and modern crocodiles. Both crocodiles and the Tyrannosaur share a small band of smooth bone across the rows of their teeth, which does not allow for lips. This convinced lead researcher Thomas Carr that, like crocodiles, tyrannosaurs had flat scales, not fleshy lips, to cover the bones of their jaw and snout. Since the reptiles share bone texture and therefore likely skin types, the evidence is compelling. Additionally, because crocodile scales are highly sensitive, this new research may help us learn more about how tyrannosaurs hunted, socialized, and sensed their surroundings. Until similar findings are discovered directly in a T-Rex, the lip debate is likely to remain unsolved. Even paleontologists will soon hold outdated images of T-Rex as more evidence is uncovered, and we gain a deeper understanding of the life of these fascinating beasts. Is Nanotyrannus valid? Nanotyrannus, which means dwarf tyrant, remains a highly controversial genus of the tyrannosaurids. It is possible the fourth smallest tyrannosaurid and one of the last in the existence before the KT extinction. Debates about the validity of Nanotyrannus started with the discovery of the first specimen, a small skull found in 1941 by Charles W. Gilmore. First labeled as Gorgosaurus and eventually put into its own category as Nanotyrannus, paleontologists are still unsure if it has earned its place as an individual genus, or if the fossils are actually that of a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex. More paleontologists believe that Nanotyrannus specimens are juvenile. Therefore, it is hard to know the validity of Nanotyrannus for sure until we discover a juvenile T-Rex that can be distinguished from Nanotyrannus specimens or an adult Nanotyrannus that can be distinguished from adult T-Rex specimens. While Nanotyrannus anatomy deviates slightly from T-Rex due to features such as higher number of teeth, it is hard to tell if this can be attributed to young age or separate genuses. The discovery of Jane, a specimen of juvenile tyrannosaur found in February 2001, stirred the pod even more. Examination of the skull led paleontologists to conclude the specimen belonged to the same species of Nanotyrannus, but it also seemed to represent a juvenile T-Rex. In February 2005, the issue of the Jane specimen and Nanotyrannus validity was brought to a conference held at the Burpee Museum of Natural History. While most saw Jane as further proof that Nanotyrannus was indeed a juvenile T-Rex all along, other paleontologists still held out on the validity of a separate genus. Recent Nanotyrannus fossils found in Montana may help settle the debate. After an intense legal battle, the specimen arrived at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Science in 2020. For the first time in almost a decade, scientists have access to the fossils. Hopefully, This enduring controversy may soon reach a resolution. What color were dinosaurs? This is probably a good reason why we do not envision T-Rex as hot pink, but there is truly not much known about the color of any dinosaur. Determining the color of dinosaurs is not as easy as it may sound. And right now, all we have is guesswork. Some theorize that dinosaurs were shades of green and gray because it would help them blend into their environment, thus evading predators. Plus, these dull colors would align with what we see in the large warm-blooded animals of the present day, like elephants. On the other hand, other paleontologists hold the opposite hypothesis. They suggest that dinosaur skin was made of rich shades of purple, orange, or other more vibrant colors. Some also believe dinosaurs had spots of varying colors. Paleontologists who advocate for colorful dinosaurs believe their vivid skin would help them recognize each other and attract potential mates. After all, birds, the closest living relative to dinosaurs, can see in color, so it is possible that dinosaurs could too. It is also possible that male dinosaurs were more brightly colored than their female counterparts in order to attract mates, which we also see in modern birds. Although both theories are logical, they are not rooted in concrete evidence. Recently, scientists have been able to use melanosomes found in fossils to make some more advanced guesswork. Melanosomes contain tube types of melanin that can indicate different hues. Studying patterns of melanosomes have brought us much closer to confirming the color of many dinosaurs. For example, paleontologists now believe that the Microraptor, a genus of small four-winged dinosaurs, had black feathers. Unfortunately, determining color from melanosomes is not yet an exact science. Color may be affected by other elements, such as a dinosaur's diet. Additionally, the pigments within melanosomes degrade with age. Hopefully, we will discover more clues with time and gain the ability to make more accurate predictions in the future. Once we know more about the color of dinosaurs, we can tell a lot more about their lives, such as their sexual selection process. Looking at color also helps us examine evolutionary links between dinosaurs and modern animals. Clearly, our current fossils and technology just do not give us all the answers when it comes to dinosaurs. Hopefully, one day these divisive debates will be settled, but it may take a time machine for us to truly see dinosaurs as they once were. The Atacama raptor sighting. Back in February 2004, a Spanish family visiting the Atacama Desert of Chile claimed to have seen a strange dog-like kangaroo creature, later dubbed the Atacama raptor, that chased their vehicle as they made their way back to Arica. The Spanish family described the animal as appearing to stand at a little over 6 feet tall, cited as running on its hind legs similar to a bipedal creature, possessing razor-sharp teeth, and seemed to fit the description of a dinosaur-like bird closely resembling a large kangaroo. This has led many to support the idea that perhaps there is a direct descendant of an ancient raptor species that has survived well into the modern day. Though many researchers are scared to make such assumptions as the sighting and reports have been few and far between, and the natural environment of the Atacama Desert is hardly capable of supporting large natural wildlife. If there are surviving raptor species, the creature would be similar in design to the modern-day ostrich with its bipedal design and large bird-like body. Unfortunately, for a creature of that size to exist in the region, it would also need to possess a significantly large enough population to continue its numbers without any damage mutations in the species. It is for this reason that it is believed that the Atacama raptor must be an endangered species, hidden across Chile in uninhabited regions across the country. Given the fact that the sightings of the creature are few and far between, many believe that perhaps the unknown species is already extinct, if it ever existed in the first place. The river lizards cryptid. Known in the cryptozoological circuit as the river lizards, these creatures seem eerily similar in design to their small theropod genus of dinosaurs, of which has fossils commonly found near ancient riverbanks and dense jungle regions all around the world. These cryptid river lizards have claimed to have been sighted nearly anywhere where there exist secluded rivers and uninhabited mountainous jungles that see little to no human contact, with claims coming from the Amazon jungles, the Rocky Mountains of the United States, secluded regions of Africa, and distant rivers of China to Siberia. According to a number of eyewitnesses, the river lizards seem to possess an extra flap of skin surrounding their neck that can be expanded outward when threatened, similar to how a peacock expands its feathers. A number of cryptozoological researchers have also made a connection between their sightings of the river lizards and another creature known as the mountain boomers cryptid of the Rocky Mountains and southwestern Texas. According to descriptions, the mountain boomers are another species of surviving dinosaur that resides within the mountains of the United States that are claimed to sleep inside caves or deep burrows and are capable of leaping great distances similar to that of a kangaroo while still possessing a design similar to that of the river lizards. There are many cryptid researchers that believe the two cryptids are one and the same, with sightings, descriptions, and locations directly matching one another. "93 billion light-years in diameter is the approximate size of the observable universe, continuously expanding, vast, and mysterious. With 2 trillion galaxies and 200 billion stars, the real question is, are we really alone? So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at recent discoveries. Mysterious looping space signal could be aliens, says Harvard scientist. In 2020, powerful fleeting bursts of radio signals were detected in a relatively regular pattern. Weird signals like this coming from outer space are called fast radio bursts. According to Harvard University professor Abraham Loeb, aliens trying to contact the Earth is definitely a possible explanation. Loeb became famous in the world of astronomy when a bizarre interstellar object called Oumuamua buzzed the Earth in 2018. He suggested that the object could be an artificial craft of some kind, meaning it was designed and created by some form of intelligent life. Since then, Loeb's take on news about mysterious signals coming from outer space began to be sought after. Powerful bursts coming from the other side of the universe would require a massive source of energy to be able to get the signal across into a part of the universe detectable by humans. Loeb and his colleague crunched the numbers on how much energy is needed to produce an FRB across cosmological distances. It turns out that the amount of power needed is comparable to the power in sunlight intercepted by the Earth. In simpler terms, a project like this would take millions of times more power and resources than anything any scientist has ever imagined here on Earth. It's safe to assume that our technology is so far behind that it would probably take thousands of years before humans can attempt such a project. Could it be that this is the aliens' way of showing how powerful they are? Could this be a warning, or could it just be one of the many random and unexplainable events in our mysterious universe? While the vast majority of people might think this is just another fake alien story, to a well-respected scientist from Harvard like Loeb, it would be a mistake to automatically rule out aliens. Although now, we don't have a definite explanation as to what exactly causes FRBs. It's important that we remain open-minded to possibilities including extraterrestrials trying to contact humans. So what is an acceptable theory to this looping space signal? Loeb believes that the powerful signals detected in 2020 are most likely the bright analogy of pulsars, which are spinning neutron stars with strong magnetic fields. And what exactly are pulsars, you might ask? Pulsars are rotating neutron stars that are observed to have pulses of radiation repeating regularly with intervals ranging from milliseconds to seconds. While this is a possible rational theory, it's not at all backed by substantial evidence that could confirm its validity. Random or not, one thing is for sure, we are years, if not decades or even centuries away from finding out the truth to this mystery. Scientists hope to broadcast DNA and Earth's location for curious aliens. There is an ongoing debate about whether or not it is a good idea for humans to make the first contact with intelligent extraterrestrials. Some people say it would be beneficial to us humans because they might be able to help us solve our problems using their advanced technology. On the other hand, there are people who think it is a bad idea because aliens might want to harm us or worse, colonize us and make us their slaves. While this seems like familiar plots of alien movies, it's undeniable that this is not very far from reality. No matter which side you are on, there are already scientists who came up with a plan to reach out to aliens through a missive, meaning a long official letter called Beacon in the Galaxy. A NASA-led team of scientists from all over the world developed a new message that they proposed to beam across the Milky Way galaxy in hopes of making first contact with intelligent aliens. The group is headed by Dr. Jonathan Jiang at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. According to Dr. Jiang, the message could be broadcast into the depths of the Milky Way using the SETI Institute's Allen Telescope Array in California and the 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope in China. He said that with a few technical upgrades, the project will most likely get the message across successfully. This group wrote a preliminary paper which has not been peer-reviewed yet. According to the paper, the group proposes to broadcast the message to a dense ring of stars close to the center of the Milky Way, an area that is known to be the most promising for life to have emerged. The scientists wrote, "Humanity has, we contend, a compelling story to share and the desire to know of others, and now has the means to do so. If this project gets approved and the message leaves the Earth, it would not be the first time that a message from our planet is broadcasted across the galaxy." In 1974, a similar project called Arecibo was sent from an observatory of the same name located in Puerto Rico. The beacon in the galaxy is loosely based on this message. Arecibo targeted a group of stars that is about 25,000 light-years away, so the message will not arrive until the year 26,974. A number of other messages have been beamed into outer space since then, including advertisement for Doritos, and another one is an invitation to a Klingon opera in The Hague. Professor Stephen Hawking warned that people should stop sending messages to space because of the danger that it might attract the wrong kind of attention. He explained that if aliens were to visit us, the situation might be similar to when Christopher Columbus conquered America, and it was not at all beneficial to the Native Americans. While projects like Beacon in the Galaxy are ambitious and hopeful of getting the message across, the reality is even if the missive were to be successfully broadcasted, aliens might not be able to make sense of the words or decode the meaning. In the case of Arecibo, its designer Frank Drake asked a group of Nobel laureates to make sense of the message, and none of them understood it. In the extremely low chance of aliens understanding the message sent by humans, establishing a conversation would be very difficult as messages take thousands of years to arrive. The WOW signal. On August 15, 1977, a strong signal was detected by the Big Ear radio telescope in Ohio State University. The entire sequence lasted for only 72 seconds. This mysterious signal unfortunately never happened again, leaving scientists wondering about what could have caused this incredible event and where it originated from. Nearly 5 decades after this incident, scientists still don't have a definite answer as to what caused this intense signal from outer space. While this can be considered as one of those unknown events happening outside of the Earth that we humans just do not have a way to fully investigate, many people believe that this may have been the first recorded attempt of aliens trying to make contact with Earth. Astronomer Jerry Araman spotted the signal on a computer printout and was so surprised to see the data that he scrawled WOW in red pen across the page. The printout showed a set of information that is very similar to what SETI astronomers expect to see from an ET intelligence. It's a shame that technology back then was too outdated to detect the signal in real time. Back in 1977, data like the WOW signal would not be available to astronomers until days after it happened. A professor in Florida suggested an explanation regarding the WOW signal. In 2017, he proposed that the signal came from the hydrogen cloud surrounding 2 comets. This hypothesis was dismissed by several astronomers, explaining that the comets sighted are not in the beam at the correct time. Also, comets are known to emit strong frequencies, but not as strong as the frequency detected from the WOW signal itself. Until this day, the WOW signal is still the strongest candidate for an ET radio transmission ever detected. The cause and the origin remains to be one of the greatest mysteries in astronomy, as scientists are still trying to find answers. The universe is so incomprehensibly vast that even the smartest of humans are finding it very difficult to keep up with mysterious sounds, signals, and frequencies detected by our instruments. It's undeniably hard to take one side, to be a believer or a non-believer of extraterrestrial life, when there is very little to no verifiable data about the deepest mysteries of the universe. One of the oldest stars in the galaxy has a planet. Our universe took a lot of evolving and developing to get where it is today. So it is somewhat strange when we find aspects that we know are not that old existing in the early days of the universe. In the early universe, we simply did not have all the scientific elements that we have today. The elements needed to form rocky planets did not exist. Yet despite this, astronomers have found right here in the Milky Way galaxy a rocky planet dating back further than you would expect. A little bit of an astronomical timeline is needed here to form this picture. The Big Bang took place, resulting in an abundance of the light elements in the universe: hydrogen, helium, and a smaller amount of lithium. About 200 million years following the Big Bang, stars began to form. And along with them, Heavier elements developed in the cores of stars, including carbon, oxygen, and iron. Now, for rocky planets to form, we need those materials from the cores of stars, so we should not be able to find rocky planets in the early days of the universe. These planets should, instead, be gaseous like Jupiter. There is one planet that is being looked at in this study. It has been found orbiting TOI 561, a star that is an approximate 10 billion years old and is one of the oldest in our galaxy. This planet was found through the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite and then observed more closely using the Keck telescope. This star is part of the galactic thick disk, an area of the galaxy made almost exclusively out of ancient stars, giving it a unique chemical composition. The stars in the so-called thick disk are much less metallic than in the thin disk, adding even more surprise to the discovery that it is indeed a rocky planet orbiting the star. The planet named TOI 561b was first found when it moved in front of the star it orbits. This process stopped the shine of the star for a moment, meaning the light dipped, and Tess could see the planet lurking just in front of the star. After this, the next step was to gather information on the planet. Not only is it rocky, but it has a mass 3 times that of the Earth's, adding more evidence to the belief that this is a rocky planet, not a gaseous one. TOI 561b is not the only planet to orbit this old star though, but the other 2 are confirmed to be gaseous, not rocky. It might take some time to continue this research and unravel this mystery, though it appears that something is different than how we currently understand it, whether that is the timeline of our universe, the composition of this planet, or the elements needed to form them. Astronomers discover massive galaxy shipyard. Scientists may soon have the opportunity to study how galaxies form clusters after their creation. In a 2021 publication, a team of researchers confirmed the discovery of a protocluster, which refers to a group of galaxies about to group together by the European Space Agency's Planck telescope. The team was able to discover the protocluster by looking through a sample of over 2,000 formations that were potentially in the process of forming a galaxy group. Galaxy clusters are extremely important. Our own solar system, the Milky Way, is part of a cluster called the local group. However, studying protoclusters is difficult because they cannot be detected by optical light. To find them, scientists must look to other regions of the electromagnetic spectrum. Protoclusters tend to appear far more prominently in submillimeter wavelengths. The newfound galaxy group, which has been identified as the G237 protocluster, was observed in the far infrared region. G237 is 11 billion light-years away from Earth. So far, 63 galaxies have been observed as part of the protocluster. As explained by Brenda Fry, co-author of the study, you can think of galaxy protoclusters such as G237 as a galaxy shipyard in which massive galaxies are being assembled. Only this structure existed at a time when the universe was 3 billion years old. Galaxies are created when gravity pulls together stars and other matter. After they are assembled, galaxies show a strong tendency to form clusters. Researchers were initially puzzled by the formation processes of the G237 protocluster. It seemed to be forming stars at an unrealistic rate, more than 10,000 times that of the Milky Way. This should indicate a protocluster that is depleting stellar fuel rapidly. To sustain its level of production, G237 needed a constant stream of fuel in the form of hydrogen gas, which is necessary to form stars. The problem was that scientists did not know where it could be getting this gas. Ultimately, it was concluded that sufficient hydrogen could be drawn from gas threads called filaments that link galaxies in the cosmic web. Filaments are connected by nodes, which is also where protoclusters are located. Fry stated, "We believe that the filaments mediate the transfer of hydrogen gas from the diffuse medium of intergalactic space onto these hungry, newly forming protoclusters in the nodes." Researchers also realized some of their data had come from galaxies irrelevant to the protocluster, but the G237 star formation rate remains impressive nonetheless. It appears that the protocluster produces 1,000 solar masses annually, while the Milky Way creates only 1. Hopefully, G237 and other protoclusters will help scientists understand the mechanisms of star formation in galaxies and how protoclusters ultimately become superclusters. Our world is rife with mysteries and enigmas. Through the years, a myriad of wondrous events have occurred and thousands of amazing discoveries have been made. We can never be quite sure what lies beyond the horizon. Between archaeological wonders and the rapid development of technology, there is an unbound potential for our future. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at recent discoveries. The Book of Thoth. The Book of Thoth dates back to the Greco-Roman period and is named after the Egyptian god Thoth, the patron god of libraries, scribes, and writing, equating to the god Hermes, who was the messenger of the gods and guide of souls. Hermes and Thoth were greatly revered as sources of knowledge and wisdom, and Hermeticism grew out of this reverence, which stressed the copying of ancient knowledge that had been revealed through the gods into a series of texts called the Corpus Hermeticum. These grew into an extensive set of Egyptian and Greek wisdom texts that became known as the Hermetic texts, and among these can be found the Book of Thoth. The Book of Thoth is formatted as a dialogue between Thoth, a teacher, and a disciple called He Who Praises Knowledge and He Who Loves Learning, respectively. The contents of the lengthy book are said to have come straight from the mouth of Thoth Hermes himself and consists of a lengthy and varied range of subjects imparting knowledge for rituals, temple construction, astrology, geography, and medicine. However, there are also references to a missing portion of the Book of Thoth, which crop up in ancient Egyptian short stories. This segment is rumored to contain 2 spells from Thoth, one which allows the mage to speak to and understand animals, and the other which allows the mage to witness the gods themselves. However, this book has been missing for centuries, and its progress through the years can be tracked through legends and lore that crop up around its alleged magical contents. The legend claims that the book was hidden by Thoth at the bottom of the river Nile and was locked in enchanted boxes, which were guarded by serpents. An Egyptian prince found the location of the secret box and defeated the serpents to retrieve it. But the gods punished his theft from Thoth by taking the life of the prince's wife and son, consequently driving him to take his own life out of despair. The prince was buried with the book, and his ghost guarded the cursed book. Decades later, another prince by the name of Seton battled the ghost and stole the book from the tomb, but then met a beautiful woman who seduced Seton and convinced him to take the life of his wife and children. The woman turned out to be an illusion created by the ghost of the deceased prince. Seton, humiliated, found the bodies of the prince's deceased wife and son and buried them with the prince's body. He then placed the book in the tomb, sealed, and hid the entrance so that no other could attempt to steal knowledge from the gods again. Mentions of the book have cropped up in stories throughout the centuries, but nobody has been able to find it, although the spells within have motivated many to search for this magical book. Some believers say that the gods have kept the book hidden from mortals because the original theft made them realize that knowledge of the gods is unfit for possession by humans, and the book should remain hidden, while others continue the search for the elusive power held within the missing pages. Mexico finds 50 skulls in sacred Aztec temple. In 2012, a team of archaeologists in Mexico claimed to have found the largest number of human skulls presented in one offering. The team stumbled across this discovery when an Aztec temple was undergoing renovations. Within the Aztec period, sacred temples saw offerings given frequently, though this finding was particularly noteworthy because more than 50 skulls appear to have been offered at once, a significantly greater offering than we believe to be the standard. The most sacred temple of the Aztec Empire, Mexico City Temploomia, is over 500 years old. Temploomia saw some of the most important rituals and Aztec ceremonies within the time frame 1325 to 1521, ending with the Spanish conquest. It has already been well established that it was common within pre-Columbian societies and civilizations to use human skulls as part of sacred rituals. But the 2012 discovery stood out to many archaeologists due to the abnormal number of skulls. 50 skulls were discovered surrounding one sacrificial stone, a spiritual place resembling a gray headstone, with 5 skulls being buried, and the remaining 45 seemingly placed on top and surrounding the sacrificial stone. This truly is a bizarre finding, according to archaeologist Raul Barrera from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History. One explanation for the unusual placement of the skulls is that they have been dug up and relocated from other important ritual sites. These skulls were estimated to be between 20 to 35 years old. The 5 buried skulls, discovered at the same time as those surrounding the site in August 2012, appeared to be in remarkable condition, besides from holes on either side of the skull. The assumed explanation for this is that they had been hung on a skull rack known as zompantly, using a wooden stake to hold them up. Similarly, in 2011, a different site within the same temple, Templomia, was announced by the Mexican government to contain a large number of skulls. August 2011 also saw the finding of a young woman's skeleton. Experts believe she was sacrificed in order to personify a goddess, as evidenced by the 1,800 bones surrounding her. A sacred tree has also been uncovered within Mexico City in 2012. This is essentially a large weathered oak tree trunk partially emerged from a well. Experts believe that the tree was taken from a mountain range nearby in order to conduct a ritual. Ferreira described these recent findings collectively as very important, a view that he is not alone in holding. Susan Gillespie, an archaeologist at the University of Florida, describes this new research as novel. She continues to explain that little is known regarding the reuse of skulls within Aztec societies. Prior to these breakthroughs, the belief has been that the Aztec rituals consisted of the hearts of the individuals being torn out of their chest. This heart removal is characteristic of the Aztec rituals as opposed to decapitation. This makes the finding of skulls like these more significant, as they may provide us with more answers about the use of other body parts in Aztec rituals. Civilizations that used to live within the Amazon. Since the 16th century, we have held the warped belief that the Amazon rainforest was largely untouched and entirely natural. It was a common assumption that prior to the Spanish invasions, only small groups of nomadic people lived intermittently along the Amazon riverbanks and estuary. Though new research suggests otherwise, revealing vast interconnected villages near the Amazon. Areas of the Amazon that previously could not be explored have been made accessible due to the development of satellite imagery. This allows for even the densest areas of the forest to be explored, letting archaeologists search for the ancient geoglyphs that indicate the presence of civilizations. Geoglyphs are art pieces formed through the moving of the landscape, such as arrangements of stones. The team, funded in part by National Geographic, had a set of 24 coordinates they considered leads, all of which proved to be positive. One in particular, however, proved to be incredibly useful, leading scientists to ceramics and charcoal, which testing indicated comes from 1410 CE. Trends also seem to show that the geoglyphs are most likely to be found in places on high elevation, such as the hills within the Amazon. This new research shows that the civilizations had settled in a wider space than we thought, as people lived further than the riverside with settlements spanning over 1,100 miles. Another conclusion drawn from this study is that the population densities predicted through computer modeling were higher than thought previously. It was thought prior to this research that 2 million lived in the Amazon rainforest. But now we know 500,000 to 1 million live within only 7% of the Amazon basin. A previous idea was that after the European conquests, those who lived in the forest had passed away due to diseases and genocide. Primary author of the research project, Jose Iriarte, archaeologist from the University of Exeter, said in relation to this, we need to reevaluate the history of the Amazon. Other information we know surrounding the history civilizations living in the Amazon is fairly limited. The Inca Empire was at its height of productivity and growth when the Spanish, French, Dutch, and English invasions began to occur. Inca societies were based in Cusco, Peru, and these small societal groups and communities stretched into the Amazon lowlands. The assumption that the rainforest was untouched and the ignoring of these groups stems from the European invasions of early modern Europe. The diseases brought over by these new groups led to rapid loss of lives, effectively erasing the appearance of the hard work and lifestyle of these indigenous groups, as the rainforest appeared uninhabited to newcomers. With the European conquests, many indigenous people became victims in forced labor camps, eventually resulting in the tragedy of enslavement and genocides of these remarkable groups of people. Monkeys are entering the Stone Age. If you're familiar with how early humans evolved, you will know that our ancestors began creating tools during the Stone Age. Even though that happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, there is a species of apes that are only now beginning to enter a Stone Age of their own. For the first time, scientists discovered a non-human species that have developed the capabilities to use tools to eat their food. By analyzing the tools that the apes left on the forest floors, the researchers were able to construct a rough timeline for how this evolution has happened. About 3,000 years ago, these apes first started using quartz stones to break open small seeds and fruits. Almost 300 years ago, they moved on to even bigger rocks to crack open things like cashew nuts. With such developments emerging, scientists are observing these monkeys to see how their behavior changes. The monkeys that have been observed using these tools are that of the capuchin, a species that grows to a height of just 2 feet. Scientists have theorized that in a few million years, these monkeys may start building large structures. As of right now, though, the researchers said that this Stone Age could last for over 3 million years. Despite that, it is nevertheless interesting to think about all the evolutionary mysteries revolving around the animals on our planet. Native American culture is surrounded by deep and rich legends that help to shape the diverse and extraordinary culture that they have today. Through these legends, older generations of Native Americans have been able to pass on precious lessons and spiritual value. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be looking at 3 incredible stories surrounding Native American legends and mythology. Native American legends of white giants. There have been several Native American tribes that describe legends of a unique race of white giants that used to live in our world. These giants were known to have a vast arsenal of skills at their disposal. They were 10 feet tall and one of the most powerful races to exist. The tribes to tell legends of these white giants are the Choctaw, Navajo, Comanches, Manta, and the Paiutes. The Choctaw tribe claimed that these white giants lived in the state now known as Tennessee. However, before this, it was home to these large giants that fought with their ancestors when they first decided to cross the Mississippi River. The giants were called Nahalo, which was originally used to describe the white giants in their native tongue. They were not friendly and cannibalistic towards the Choctaw tribe. The Comanches are another tribe that resides within the Great Plains and claims to have been in contact with the white giants when they still roamed the earth. They tell legends that describe the white giants race as strong, brave, and miles superior to the elites that exist in the world today. The giants were skilled crafters and built beautiful cities full of people and life. However, they forgot the importance of justice and mercy, which led to them being wiped out by the Great Spirit. Navajo legends describe the white giants as a superior race that excelled at mining and dominated any surrounding communities. They had a stronghold over all of America, and no competing races stood a chance against them. The legend claims that they eventually returned to the heavens or were extinguished by an unknown power. The indigenous Manta people of Peru claim that the giants arrived on large boats and began to take control of the area. They were enormous creatures with eyes the size of dinner plates and strong limbs. Their sexual habits were revolting, which led to their extinction. Some researchers uncovered the mention of red-haired white giants in Paiutes legends, but there isn't anyone left to verify its truth. The discovery of human bones with the marrow eaten out has provided some proof as to the existence of cannibals in the Lake Tribes area. But nothing has been completely confirmed. The red-headed giants of Lovelock Cave. The next Native American legend we will be discussing surrounds the historical existence of cannibals in a small cave on the outskirts of Humboldt Sink, Nevada. The place is called Lovelock Cave and is about 150 feet long. The legend claims that the cave was once inhabited by 10 feet tall and red-haired giants who harmed and ate humans from the neighboring communities. The giants, known as Sitakar, were deeply feared by the Paiute Indians. The Paiute Indians eliminated the giants by trapping them inside the caves and funneling smoke inside until they passed away. Lovelock Cave, in which they lived, has since been a huge archaeological site and home to the discovery of over 10,000 artifacts. The University of California and its anthropologists went in and discovered tons of unique artifacts, like baskets, finely crafted sage brushes, knives, and other tools. They also found human bones, some of which were missing the marrow that had been dug out. This increased the truth of cannibalistic speculations and that the humans living within the cave ate other humans. Researchers claimed that most of the human bones remained untouched, and the bones that were missing marrow and sported knife marks might have been done out of necessity or famine and not a regular diet. The anthropologist Llewellyn L. Loud was in charge of the Lovelock Cave expeditions when he and his team discovered nearly 10,000 different artifacts. It took him many years of research and work before he could completely publish a full report of the findings. That being said, none of his findings directly proved the existence of 10 feet tall beings, and any human bones found were of the regular size for the time period. The cave was not easy to explore as it suffered from a collapse in roughly the year April, which led to the destruction of numerous access points. This likely influenced the residents of the cave to leave and find a home elsewhere. The new residents of the cave were mainly bats that, over time, caused a large pile-up of guano to cover the ground and all the artifacts. The cave has since been the site of many expeditions from various facilities and research centers, but none have yet to uncover any scientific proof of 10 feet tall giants. Bakwa's Native American wild man. This legend preaches the history of the ghostly spirits known as the Bakwas. They are often referred to as the king of ghosts, men of the sea, or Native American wild man. The Kwakwaka'wakw people of British Columbia tell many stories of the Bakwars as ghostly beings that lived in the forest and near the water. It is said that they liked to spend their time around drowned spirits and eating cockles from the beach. They appear to be shy towards humans, but this is far from the truth. They will often seek out humans that get lost or are wandering in the woods and offer them food in the form of delicious berries or dried salmon. However, the food is actually rotten bugs, snakes, lizards, and other gross things. The unsuspecting human that eats the rotten food will turn into a Bakwas themselves and forever be a part of their tribe. The Bakwas are frightening creatures to look at with thin frames, long hair, and peculiar round eyes. They are often depicted in Native American ceremonies where the dancer will wear a detailed mask and cover it with their hands to represent their perceived shyness. Native American legends are full of rich details and intricate stories that depict the spiritual significance of older generations. These are just a few of the legends that surround Native American culture today, but there are endless more tales to be heard. What are your thoughts on potentially 10 feet tall cannibals walking the earth, or mysterious ghostly figures that wander through the forest and beaches? Each year, scientists and researchers make incredible discoveries, helping us to better understand the world around us. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at these 3 interesting discoveries. Rugged mountains taller than Everest lurk deep inside the earth. The subterranean structures, which were revealed by violent earthquakes, provide interesting new hints as to why our planet is a chemical oddity. You may be standing on top of a mountain right now without realizing it. Subterranean mountains, though seeming like a fantasy aspect of Jules Verne's journey to the center of the earth, are real, but different from any novelist's imagined setting. This bizarre range is part of our planet's stratified structure rippling down 410 miles along a geologic boundary. It's home to some of the world's most spectacular peaks, including ones that may rise even higher than Mount Everest. Using seismic waves from many large earthquakes, scientists have gotten the best look yet at these underwater mountains. Their findings, which were just published in Science, show that the peaks are not only towering, but also surprisingly rugged. A finding that could shed light on why Earth is a chemical outlier in our solar system. People believe we have made most of the first-order findings and that everything else is just adding details to the fundamental discoveries because we have been able to see so much, says Christine Hauser, a global seismologist at Tokyo Institute of Technology's Earth Life Science Institute. We are still capable of making fundamental discoveries about the interior of our planet, as this study demonstrates. These large earthquakes unearthed some interesting facts, with towering crags emerging from the sides of the subterranean summits. Some areas of the boundary where the deep mountains reside are particularly harsh. While the exact heights of the rough patches are difficult to determine, we believe their presence indicates chemical changes in the mantle. The harshness could serve as a mausoleum for stony slabs that fell from the surface at subduction zones, where one tectonic plate is pushed beneath another. As a slab sinks, parts break loose and continue their descent into the depths. However, it appears that some may become stuck for 110 miles down, and the piling up of these slabs may be what causes the hard, rugged border zone. As a result, places where the mantle is not mixing would be identified. Other border regions appear smooth, suggesting that they are mixing much more easily, implying that the mantle includes deep mixing zones and zones that are slower to interweave. Furthermore, The research suggests that Earth's missing elements may be lurking beneath these rough terrains. Some zones of the lower mantle, according to Hauser, may have resisted mixing since Earth's early years, trapping some chemical components in the depths. The problem is that it is so difficult to say how long these qualities have existed. Mount Everest grows by nearly a meter to a new height. Nepal and China jointly announced that the world's highest mountain, Mount Everest, is 0.86 meters higher than previously estimated. Until now, the countries had disagreed about whether or not to add a snowcap to the top. The revised elevation is 8,848.86 meters. The mountain was roughly 4 meters lower than Nepal's previous official measurement of 8,844.43 meters. Everest is located on the border between China and Nepal, and mountaineers from both countries attempt to climb it. Officials from Nepal's Foreign Ministry and Survey Department said surveyors from both nations worked together to reach an agreement on the new height. During Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Kathmandu, Nepal's capital, last year, they agreed to jointly reveal the new measurement of the Earth's highest point. Mount Everest had previously been measured to its rock height by Chinese authorities, but Nepalese authorities contended that the snow on the peak should be included. After measuring the peak in February 2005, the Chinese surveyors computed their figures. In 2012, Nepalese government officials informed the reporters that they were being pressured by China to accept the Chinese height, so they decided to take new measurement to put the record right once and for all. The survey of India confirmed the 8,848-meter height Nepal had been using for Mount Everest in 1954, but the country has now undertaken its measurement of the top for the first time. Mountain heights are calculated using the mean sea level as a reference point, so it is less about figuring out where the top is and more about figuring out where the bottom is. Nepal used the Bay of Bengal as its sea level, but India had already surveyed a site closer to Everest from the bay near the India-Nepal border and could supply the height at that point to the Nepalese surveyors. Nepal then constructed a network of line-of-sight stations reaching roughly 250 kilometers to the point where Everest first became visible, forming a chain of points it could measure and put together. According to the state-run China Daily, the Chinese surveyors selected the Yellow Sea in Shandong's eastern region as their sea level basis. The height of the peak was also calculated using trigonometric formulas by surveyors on both sides. They employed formulas to calculate a triangle's height by multiplying its base by its angles. Despite all of the meticulous preparation, someone must remain on top of the mountain. After Nepal paused all expeditions during the coronavirus pandemic and China barred foreign travelers, Nepalese surveyors reached the summit last year, while the Chinese surveyors were the only team to reach the summit in 2020. To reach a more precise figure, Nepalese officials stated they calculated trigonometry using 12 distinct lower peaks looking up at the Everest summit. Chinese surveyors allegedly employed the same strategy. According to Chinese media, Mount Everest has been measured twice before by China, the first in 1975 and the second in February 2005. According to the Himalayan database, members of the second survey team planted a Chinese version of a GPS gadget on the summit. Chinese surveyors this time employed China's Beidou navigation satellite system, which is thought to be a competitor to the US-owned Global Positioning System, or GPS. Snow depth, weather, and wind speed will also be tracked using the technology to aid glacier monitoring and ecological protection, according to China's national news agency, Xinhua. Surveyors in Nepal utilized GPS to make their calculations. Mr. Dekal told the reporter, "We analyzed this data using the internationally recognized technique to establish the height of Mount Everest. In the future, the Earth will have just one continent. The solid crust we walk on, the Earth's outer layer, is made up of broken pieces similar to the shell of a broken egg. The tectonic plates, which make up these pieces, move around the planet at a few centimeters per year. They occasionally come together and form a supercontinent, which lasts for a few 100 million years before disintegrating. The plates then disperse or scatter and move apart from one another, finally coming back together after another 400 to 600 million years. Pangaea, the last supercontinent, arose around 310 million years ago and began to disintegrate around 180 million years ago. According to some estimates, the next supercontinent will form in 200 to 250 million years, putting us about halfway through the current supercontinent cycle's scattered phase. The question is, how and why will the next supercontinent emerge? Nova Pangea, Pangea Ultima, Orica, and Amazia are the four main scenarios for the birth of the next supercontinent. The way each form is determined by various scenarios, but they are all tied to Pangea's split and how the world's continents are still moving today. Pangea's disintegration resulted in the birth of the Atlantic Ocean, which is continually expanding and widening today. As a result, the Pacific Ocean is closing in on itself and becoming thinner. A ring of subduction zones, the Ring of Fire, runs along the Pacific's margins, where the ocean bottom is dragged down or subducted under continental plates and into the Earth's interior. The old ocean floor is recycled there and can be used to create volcanic plumes. The Atlantic, on the other hand, has a massive ocean ridge that produces new ocean plates, but only two subduction zones, the Caribbean Lesser Antilles Arc and the Scotia Arc between South America and Antarctica. Investigating the Earth's tectonic future pushes us to think about the processes that change our planet over long timescales and to push the frontiers of our understanding. Space, that vast realm full of more mysteries than certainties, constantly taunting those researchers who peer through telescope lenses at the immeasurable emptiness that lies beyond our atmosphere. Although new discoveries are constantly being made thanks to the constantly improving technology that we have at our disposal, these discoveries do not always provide us with exact answers about space. In fact, frequently, a new discovery means uncovering even more mysterious and unanswerable questions. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at interesting space discoveries. Astronomers discover massive radio galaxy 100 times larger than the Milky Way. Space is massive. Recently, astronomers uncovered a radio galaxy so colossal, it overshadows our own Milky Way by a shocking 100 times in size. Alcinous is the name given to the galaxy in question. It lies an estimated 3 billion light-years away from Earth. The galaxy has gained its name from the Greek figure Alcinous, who was the son of the Hellenic primordial sky god, Uranus. The Leiden University of the Netherlands claims that the discovery was a stroke of luck, as numerous discoveries tend to be. More often than not, the greatest discoveries are made when we are not even searching for them. Alcinous is what is referred to as a radio galaxy. This means that there exists a huge black hole within the very center of it that emits two rays of pure radio wave energy out of its core, known within scientific circles as an active galactic nucleus. This active galactic nucleus is formed when the black hole consumes matter around it. With the usage of the European Wide Web of Low-Frequency Array telescopes, known more commonly as LOFAR, scientists were able to discover two immense rays of pure plasma erupting from what appeared to them to be a typical supermassive black hole. It was not until they researched further that they found that these streams of radio energy were up to 16 million light-years in length, if not longer. In comparative terms, this is the equivalent of 100 Milky Ways put together, but even that is lesser than the true extent of these plasma jets. The official scientific statement calls it one of the largest galactic structures found in the cosmos so far. One of the materials which erupted from these plasma streams are materials used in the formation of new stars. Because of its intense speed that nearly challenges the speed of light, the star-building chemical is under immense heat pressure which causes it to dissolve into plasma, which is what we see with radiolight. This plasma radiates a glare that is visible to the LOFAR detectors. The reasoning behind why astronomers were not able to detect this galaxy until now is because the plasma jets are difficult to see. As they say, it was a lucky discovery. This, of course, is not the only radio jet ever discovered. It is certainly one of the largest, but others have been found in the past, even in our very own galaxy. The true mystery lies in how Alcinous grew into its size and structure. The first theory was that it was a result of the supermassive black hole or an extreme concentration of stardust in the galaxy. Even the plasma jets themselves could have increased the size of the galaxy, and yet in its fellow radio galaxies, these factors are common and do not add to their sizes. Alcinous is an utterly interesting discovery to have been made, as it could very well reshape our fundamental understanding of the cosmos in which we thrive. It might also help us understand the theory of the cosmic web wherein galaxies are interconnected yet separated by gaps of nothingness. Scientists are planning on focusing further research into Alcinous and to try and track down the origin of its incredible size and how it was formed. First ever documented tectonic activity on exoplanet. Exoplanets are extremely hard to see. Hidden by a bright light that glares from the stars they orbit, exoplanets are basically classified as anything that orbits a larger star like Earth. In a new report submitted by the University of Bern, scientists found that the night side of an exoplanet called LHS 3844b is tectonically active. This exoplanet, which orbits the red dwarf star LHS 3844, was detected by the Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite. Though its surface is comparable to that of Mercury, it is larger than Earth and orbits its parent star in 11 hours. Tobias Meyer, an astronomer of the university, mentioned the huge variance of temperatures. We thought that such a large temperature difference could affect the flow of matter inside the planet. The temperatures being referenced to are degrees upwards of 800 degrees Celsius on the sun side and below -25 Celsius on the night side. Similar to the activity seen in Hawaii and Iceland's volcanic areas, researchers witnessed the swelling of material on one side of the planet. They determined this swelling could cause activity across the hemisphere. While they believe that one side of this exoplanet has a great deal of volcanic activity, the other side of the mysterious planet seems to have none at all. This type of tectonic activity documentation, however, is a first. Until now, we have only seen volcanoes of this nature grow in areas on Earth. How many more tectonically active stars and planets could be in our atmosphere? We are excited to keep following along and find out. A fast radio burst was detected from our galaxy for the first time. Fast radio bursts, also known as FRBs, are rare flashes of bright light that appear only for a few milliseconds and have puzzled scientists for years. They are intense pulses of radio waves that release tons of energy. They release more power in just a few milliseconds than the sun does in an entire century. The first recorded instance of an FRB sighting was in February 2007, but it was not until 2018 that a telescope was set up to track them precisely. These odd flashes of light register on the radio band of the electromagnetic spectrum for a fraction of a second. There is no known origin or explanation for where or when they appear, which means you have to be lucky and point your radio dish in hopefully the right direction to capture one. The leading theories of FRBs are that they originate from magnetars, a type of neutron star that died in supernova explosions. Magnetars are considered the most powerful magnets in our universe and have been known to erupt into giant flares and produce X-rays and gamma rays, implying they could also create FRBs. Throughout the years, scientists have been able to identify nearly 150 various flashes within our universe. Within the past 2 years, though, that number has almost quadrupled with the success of a large stationary radio telescope set up in British Columbia. The CHIME telescope, short for the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, was first set up in 2018 to observe and catalog potential FRBs. In just its first year, CHIME detected 535 new fast radio bursts and provided detailed insight into their properties, which researchers are using to pinpoint their origins. In late April 2020, the CHIME telescope and the Survey for Transient Astronomical Radio Emission 2 or STARE-2 antennas in California and Utah detected a new fast radio burst. This burst, named FRB 200428, is the brightest burst that researchers have ever seen in our own galaxy. They explained that it was about 3,000 times more brilliant than any other signal they had cataloged, and that if you possessed the recording of raw data from your phone's 4G LTE receiver, you could potentially have seen the radio signal on your phone. FRB 200428 was also the first burst to be traced to a magnetar, thus confirming the researchers' leading theory. It also was accompanied by X-rays a day later, another first. Multiple space telescopes around the world detected these X-ray bursts, all originating from the exact location and at the same time. This fast radio burst occurred in Vulpecula, a constellation set in our galaxy's center, about 30,000 light-years from Earth. Although this observation strengthens the magnetar theory with the accompaniment of X-ray emissions, scientists are still unaware of how exactly these bursts form or how they behave. Researchers are now intrigued with the possibility of directional bursts pointed away from the Earth, which would be undetectable to us and our telescopes. They will continue to monitor the sky and hopefully find further information to solve this mystery. Astronomers reveal secrets of the most distant supernova ever detected. A team of multinational astronomers assembled by the University of Southampton announced their discovery of an extraordinary supernova, and not just any supernova, but the most distant one we have ever witnessed, giving us a window into 10.5 billion years ago at the infancy of our universe. The star in question, titled DES-16C2NM, was found using the DES Dark Energy Survey during a universal collaboration to map the cosmos and the millions of galaxies we know of in the hope of finding out more about dark matter and energy thought to be behind the universe's endless expansion. The study was published in the Astrophysical Journal and showcases that this supernova, since the light from the supernova took 10.5 billion years to travel to us, is the oldest and furthest one we have ever seen. It's absolutely primordial. Supernovae are eruptions of colossal stars that occur when they use up all their natural fuel and end in a glorious burst of light and energy. DES-16C2NM was categorized as a superluminous supernova, which are the brightest and the most difficult type of supernova to find in space. The first superluminous supernova was only found a decade ago, and there is still much we do not know about them. It's thought these are caused when a dense neutron star rotates at immense speeds in the explosion of a star at the end of its life. Dr. Matthew Smith of the University of Southampton states, "It's thrilling to be part of the survey that has discovered the oldest known supernova. DS-16C2NM is extremely distant, extremely bright, and extremely rare, not the sort of thing you stumble across every day as an astronomer. The ultraviolet light from SLSN informs us of the amount of metal produced in the explosion and the temperature of the explosion itself, both of which are key to understanding what causes and drives these cosmic explosions. Because of its distance from Earth, this allows scientists a deeper insight into the nature of superluminous supernovae themselves, as well as how they are formed and whether currently existing theories are correct." Professor Mark Sullivan, Dr. Smith's co-worker, claims, "Finding more distant events to determine the variety and sheer number of these events is the next step. Now we know how to find these objects at greater distances. We are actively looking for more of them as part of the Dark Energy Survey." DS-16C2NM was found back in August of 2016 and had the VLT, Magellan, and Keck Observatory all hyper-focused on researching it. These three observatories are known to be the most powerful ones on Earth. Professor Bob Nicol of the University of Portsmouth said about the matter, "Such supernovae were not thought of when we started DES over a decade ago. Such discoveries show the importance of empirical science. Sometimes you just have to go out and look up to find something amazing." Since the beginning of the Dark Energy Survey in 2013, over 25 international institutions have got involved, and the project is a collaboration of over 400 individual scientists. Astronomers discover hidden trove of massive black holes. Sometimes we can look at something time and time again, still never noticing every detail. Whether it is a missed clue in your favorite film or a seemingly new brushstroke in a painting, this is something each one of us has experienced. Well, it appears that the scientific world is no exception. A research team led by those at the University of North Carolina has uncovered a whole host of massive black holes in dwarf galaxies despite us looking in the areas previously. These massive black holes have been looked past over and over. But now that we know that they are there, they could have a huge potential to help us figure out the details behind the supermassive black hole in the center of the Milky Way. Our galaxy takes the form of a giant spiral, meaning, as our current understanding has us believe, it's made up of lots of small dwarf galaxies and they're merging together. One example of this is the Magellanic Clouds. These clouds are irregular galaxies that appear as an illuminated patch in the sky. They are seen in the south, and they are understood to be dwarf galaxies that will eventually become part of the Milky Way. When a new dwarf galaxy enters our galaxy, there is the potential that it brings along with it a massive black hole at its center. It's currently thought that an inevitable question of when rather than if this massive black hole will be absorbed by the supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way. While we acknowledge that this is a possibility, in reality, we do not know how often dwarf galaxies contain massive black holes. This is a glaring gap in our current knowledge as we know very little about how black holes and galaxies grow, develop, and interact with one another. This new research published in the Astrophysical Journal helps us to connect the dots as we uncover the black holes we simply had not seen before. Lead author of the study, Magda Palomera, said, "This result really blew my mind because these black holes were previously hiding in plain sight. It can be a fairly difficult process to detect black holes, evidenced by us repeatedly glossing over them. Usually, we can find them when they take in gas, as this results in them growing and makes them glow. Professor Sheila Kanepan, the co-author of the study, likened black holes to fireflies in that we can only see them when they are lit up. So if the black holes are not actively growing, then we do not know how many are truly there. Adding to this confusion is that the high-energy radiation characteristic of growing black holes is not exclusively a feature of them alone. New stars can be seen to have the same high-energy radiation. The research team realized that they could test where these signals were coming from, with a different number of tests allowing us to conclude if it is a young star being formed or a black hole growing that is being observed. So far, this research seems very promising, with a new acknowledgement that there is sometimes more to the picture than what we can see. The theories we currently hold are growing and expanding in size, allowing us to deepen our understanding, and more research will eventually be conducted, hopefully, providing further evidence towards what we think we already know. Space is truly unlimited. With so many possibilities for advancements, it is truly fascinating whenever anything is discovered. You never know what small finding will lead to something big and what big findings will be revolutionary. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look at recent space discoveries. Scientists think they have detected radio emissions from an exoplanet. Searching for and investigating found exoplanets is becoming an increasingly prominent aspect of astronomical research. Exoplanets are planets that, just like those in our solar system, orbit a star, though they orbit a star other than our Sun and lie a little further away. Scientists believe that if they find an exoplanet like Earth, not only will we be able to confirm that we do indeed understand the processes of formation and interaction within and across planets, but we might go one step further and find habitable environments and other life forms. All the research conducted is invaluable. So far, the search for exoplanets has been led by TESS, NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite, which has found more than 4,500 potential exoplanets, referred to as candidate exoplanets. Scientists then follow up, and from this, 159 exoplanets that were found by TESS have been confirmed. Now new research is on its way to try and alleviate some of TESS's pressures, delving further into exoplanet research. In the Netherlands, a research team has used a radio telescope to examine 3 of the stars we know are orbited by exoplanets, also known as host stars. The team has compared their observations of host stars to observations of Jupiter when they reframed to look as though it were seen from a star system plenty of light years away. From these observations, there was one star system, Tau Boötes, that was the most notable in result. We have confirmed there is one exoplanet in Tau Boötes already, though this does not mean there aren't more awaiting discovery. Researchers have seen from this star system that there are ways to detect exoplanets through radio waves for the first time. If this proves to be successful and accurate, then there is the potential to understand the impact of magnetic fields in exoplanets, and by extension, understand more about exoplanets themselves. Jake Turner, an astronomer at Cornell University and lead author of the research project, said, "We present one of the first hints of detecting an exoplanet in the radio realm." He continues to explain that their current hypothesis is that the radio emissions were coming from the planet itself, not any other nearby celestial objects. He explains that to have come to this conclusion, the team had considered the strength and polarization of the radio signal and the planet's magnetic field, and that all these measurements fall in line with theoretical predictions. Despite this being the current theory, the team cannot be sure of the source of the radio wave just yet. More research, more observations, and more data is necessary to determine if the team's hypothesis is indeed true. The planet named Tau Boötes b is in the Tau Boötes star system and can be found in, you guessed it, the Boötes constellation when viewed from Earth. So the new wave of research kicked off starting from Jupiter. The team began by measuring the radio emissions from the gas giant in our own solar system and then adjusted the measurements based on distance from the host star and the distance from Earth to make the same template fit the measurements for Tau Boötes b, the exoplanet in question. The team were not done here. The researchers employed the low-frequency array in the Netherlands to combine the data with that of the possible signal from Tau Boötes b. Researchers have used this to see if other signals have come through too. Lofer managed to trace the possible Tau Boötes b signal, but also several from nearby stars. it's important that we aim to understand what we can about the radio waves on exoplanets. We know that magnetic fields can play a role in the forming of conditions on the planet, such as Earth's protecting the atmosphere. This is vital information, but looking directly for it is difficult at best. And so radio emissions can give us hints and tips to help crack the code with a little more ease and certainty. So if this research team has found an exoplanet via radio emissions, not only does this mean we can employ other technologies alongside TESS, but it also means we can uncover more about the magnetic field influencing the climates and conditions of these planets. There is still a great deal of uncertainty and a lot more research needed. After all, it might not even be the exoplanet producing these signals as it is. Dense exoplanet GJ367b found. In 2021, a study was published from an international research team announcing the discovery of a new planet, GJ367b. The exoplanet is able to orbit its star in just 8 hours and has the shockingly high surface temperature of 1,500 degrees centigrade. This exoplanet is one of nearly 5,000 exoplanets that we know of today. To get an idea of its size, the mass of GJ367b clocks in at half of that of the Earth's. Though this exoplanet has a diameter of a little over 9,000 kilometers compared to Earth's 12,742 kilometers. A lot of the research delving into exoplanets is striving towards one rather specific goal, to find a second Earth. Even though GJ367b's scalding surface is not exactly an Earth lookalike, the research shows that scientists are able to specify the characteristics of even rather tiny planets, widening the opportunities for future planets. Co-author Dr. Vincent Van Eilen from the UCL Mallard Space Science Laboratory, London, explained that 2 different methods were used to determine the size and mass of the planet, both of which were based on the light from the planet's star. One was based on looking at the small decrease in the light from the star that occurred when GJ367b passed in front of it, an analysis conducted using NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, and the other looked into the mass based on the effect the planet had on the movement of its star. Following his explanation, he said, "So it's fantastic that we were able to detect this tiny motion from 31 light-years away." The study was comprised of 78 researchers led by astronomers at the Institute of Planetary Research at the German Aerospace Center. The lead author, Dr. Christine Lamb, explained that from the radius and mass of this planet, we can tell that it is a rocky planet, meaning it joins the ranking as a sub-Earth-sized terrestrial planet. One of the most significant differences between this exoplanet and Earth is the short time to orbit its star. It takes 365 days for Earth to orbit the Sun. In comparison, 1 year on GJ36b is just 8 hours long. This places the newly found exoplanet in the ultra-short period group of planets, those whose orbits are less than 24 hours long. All this information combined could help to give us some sort of clue into the formation and evolution history of the exoplanet. The other distinctive feature of GJ367b is the temperature. Being in such close contact to its star, it receives an extreme level of radiation, more than 500 times that of Earth's. It is exciting to see what else lies beyond Earth, and the possibility of finding a second Earth seems to be not too far into the future. New discoveries are constantly being made across a number of fields. They tell us more about the past and the future, helping us better understand our present. Earth's core is growing lopsided, and scientists don't know why. From far away, Earth looks pretty symmetrical. And although our home planet might spin on a little bit of a tilt, you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who thinks the Earth was shaped weirdly. But scientists now understand that our planet's core is growing lopsided, and they are not entirely sure why. The discovery comes after data revealed that the Earth's core is losing heat in greater amounts under Indonesia than Brazil, and this is having effects on the seismic waves passing through the core. Seismic waves and tremors made by earthquakes are the only way scientists can really see the Earth's core. And what scientists can identify is that waves passing across the equator move much slower than those across the poles. This has been known about for decades. In fact, it is called seismic anisotropy. But now researchers believe that a recent study shows that the core's lopsidedness is the culprit. According to the report, every year the Earth's core grows slightly more lopsided, meaning that its iron crystal forms faster on its eastern side than its west. The movement of liquid iron in the outer core carries heat away from the inner core, causing it to freeze, Lead study author Daniel Frost said. So this means that the outer core has been taking more heat from the east side under Indonesia than the west under Brazil. One image to use to visualize this odd growth is that of a tree trunk. The rings of the tree grow from a central point, but it is rare that the central point is actually in the center of the tree. This results in one side growing faster than the other. If you were to cut the Earth in half, you might see a similar thing. Still, scientists were keen to point out that the asymmetric growth does not mean the Earth's inner core is strangely shaped, and it does not mean there is any risk of imbalance. NASA rockets sent to assess Alpha Centauri. NASA sent 2 rockets into space meant to conduct experiments and tests to see whether the stars of the solar system Alpha Centauri and their UV light are of any danger to the planets around them. They hope that this research will provide insight into how normal or abnormal our Sun is in the scheme of ordinary solar systems. It will also help us to see whether there are changes of potential life on the planets of Alpha Centauri or whether the UV light deletes any opportunity for life. The solar system lies only 4.3 light-years away and is one of the closest systems near us. 2 stars reside in the system, Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B. The 2 are binary suns. There is a 3rd star called Proxima Centauri, but it is thought there are no planets orbiting these stars. We don't know this for certain, however. UV light, as we understand it, is required to build life. It breaks up molecules and allows them to reform into improved complex molecules that allow life to grow. Too much of it makes water vapor dissolve and can go as far as to strip planets' atmospheres. Mars is an example of this since it lacks a magnetic field to protect it from the sun's radioactive UV rays. According to astrophysicist Brian Fleming from the University of Colorado, understanding ultraviolet radiation is extremely important to understanding what makes a planet habitable. Fleming is the primary researcher for the Investigation DUC, or the Dual-Channel Extreme Ultraviolet Continuum Experiment, as well as the Cystine or suborbital imaging spectrograph for transition region irradiance from nearby exoplanet host stars. The Cystine rocket was the first to be launched with JUICE, following a few days later from Australia's Arnhem Space Centre. This space center is privately owned and has launched NASA's X-ray quantum calorimeter prior to these rockets. Alpha Centauri is only visible from the southern hemisphere, making Australia the best place to launch as the solar system lies in the height of Australia's skies. Cystine and DUICE work hand in hand, as Cystine collects ultraviolet wavelength data at longer distances, whereas DUS is made to collect data of close-up ultraviolet light. This ensures that the data is accurate and thorough and that nothing escapes the research. Scientists struggle with observing stars due to the Earth's magnetic field, which blocks UV light to protect our planet. This means that sending telescopes into space directly is the most effective way to obtain data. Kevin France, who is another astrophysicist from the University of Colorado, notes that looking at Alpha Centauri will help us check if other stars like the Sun have the same radiation environment or if there are a range of environments. Jupiter's mysterious energy crisis. We are not the only planet in the solar system that has its share of energy crises, but a recent report shows that we might have discovered the reason for Jupiter's strange source of energy. For the last half a century, our gas giant neighbor Jupiter has an odd quirk about its temperature. However, new research may have an answer. To those not in the know, Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. Strangely, although it is much further away, more than 5 astronomical units from the Sun than most of the planets, it is surprisingly warm. Because of this great distance, scientists would expect that the lack of sunlight would result in a very cold and frozen environment somewhere around -100 degrees Fahrenheit. And yet, Jupiter's average temperature in its upper atmosphere is a boiling 800 degrees Fahrenheit. That nearly rivals Venus' roasting surface temperature. This odd energy quirk might have an answer, however. Scientists now believe that this so-called energy crisis is the result of intense auroras. These auroras are born from Jupiter's strong magnetic field, and they are ultimately affecting the planet's temperature. NASA's Juno spacecraft was partly responsible for this latest conclusion about Jupiter. Juno is currently orbiting Jupiter and is passing through the planet's radiation field in order to study it in the greatest detail in astronomical history. We have auroras on Earth as well, but they are not uncommon in the solar system. Any planet with a significant magnetic field shows aurora behavior. For example, Mars and Venus have their own versions of auroras, not just Jupiter and Earth. Auroras are created when particles with electrical charges become unable to leave the magnetic field of the planet. From there, they travel towards the planet's poles, hitting atoms and molecules within the atmosphere, which creates the famous light show as seen in the Northern Lights. The researchers who have come to this conclusion seem to have gotten lucky when it comes to understanding the biggest planet in our system. James O'Donoghue, who is a planetary space scientist at JAXA's Institute of Space and Astronautical Science, said, "It was pure luck that we captured this potential heat-shedding event. If we'd observed Jupiter on a different night when the solar wind pressure had not recently been high, we would have missed it." Unfortunately, like many discoveries, the scientists now have even more questions about the heating on Jupiter. Dr. Tom Stallard, a co-author of the paper, said, "We also revealed a strange localized region of heating well away from the aurora, a long bar of heating unlike anything we've seen before. Though we can't be sure what this feature is, I am convinced it's a rolling wave of heat flowing equator wood from the aurora." We are in constant awe of the amazing things within our planet and the expeditions across the world to make new discoveries. A day doesn't go by that we don't learn something new about science, nature, space, or history. The world is full of mysteries, and many eager scientists and adventurers are trying to solve them. Our thirst for knowledge has taken us to the depths of the ocean, the deepest corners of the jungle, and planets millions of miles away from Earth. Nonetheless, there remains lots to be uncovered and many more adventures to be had. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 recent discoveries you may not have heard about. Massive DNA Borg structures perplex scientists. Do you remember the Borg from Star Trek that can assimilate knowledge from other species and copy the technology of others? Well, in a recent discovery, scientists uncovered something that has some similarity to these aliens, but perhaps a little bit less evil. Scientists and researchers have been taking samples at muddy sites in the west of the United States. They came across a new type of DNA that supposedly assimilates genes from other microorganisms in their environment. So like the Star Trek Borg, these DNA strands were taking genes and characteristics from other organisms in their location and using them. In addition, researchers decided to name this unique DNA strand Borgs after the aliens in Star Trek and their ability to assimilate knowledge and technology of other species. This newly discovered DNA is an example of extra-chromosomal elements, or ECEs. As a result, many scientists and microbiologists, like Huang Li from the Chinese Academy of Science in Beijing, claim that the discovery of Borgs is exciting but does note their similarity to other ECEs. Therefore, they might not be considered a new discovery as others are claiming. However, one thing that distinguished Borgs from other ECEs is their enormous size. They range from 600,000 to 1 million DNA base pairs in length. This is significantly larger than other ECEs. In addition, researchers are still trying to understand these unique DNA structures, but there is hope that they could help eliminate methane in the air. This claim is made based on their similarity to another microorganism known as methanopyridines that do the same task and can remove methane from the air. If this is true, these Borg DNA strands could be a huge benefit for society's battle with climate change and help to save the Earth. It will take some time for microbiologists and scientists to study these new ECE-like strands, but we can keep our fingers crossed that they might become a great asset in combating climate change. Neanderthal diet was carnivorous shows study of tooth. Neanderthals are an extinct species that lived in Eurasia nearly 40,000 years ago. They are considered to be archaic humans, which means they have some similar traits and body composition to modern-day people. Scientists can typically determine the diet of an animal or human by extracting proteins and looking at the nitrogen isotopes in bone collagen. However, the issue with this technique is that it cannot be used on bones older than 50,000 years old due to their fragility and risk of deterioration. As a result, researchers have struggled to determine the diet of Neanderthals. Their location and region will also provide some insight into what they may have eaten. For example, some of the studies conducted on the dental tartar in the Iberian Peninsula concluded that they preferred a plant-based diet. At the same time, in other areas, it was strictly meat. For one, the Neanderthals in Spain at the Gabesa site were carnivores. A researcher named Clevio Joaoin helped to develop the idea of using zinc isotope ratios in a tooth's enamel to figure out what it regularly ate. Zinc isotope ratios are highly durable and can withstand degradation, so they will not be damaged during the extraction and atomization period. She used this technique to get more information on what the diet of these Neanderthals might have been. To be clear, if the proportions of zinc isotopes in the bones were lower, the animal or human was likely to be a carnivore. In contrast, if the proportions were smaller, the human or animal likely had a plant-based diet. With this in mind, this technique is still highly debated, and many skeptics are still determining if analyzing zinc isotope ratios is enough to assess the diets of the subject accurately. Nonetheless, this new process of analyzing Neanderthal teeth has made waves across the scientific community. Controversial cave discoveries suggest humans reached the Americas much earlier than previously thought. In a recent expedition to the mountains of central Mexico, a team of archaeologists came across evidence that suggests humans may have arrived in North America only 30,000 years ago. This is significantly earlier than what had previously been thought. While exploring the Chiquita Cave, the archaeologists discovered hundreds of ancient tools and artifacts covered in several layers of gravel and dirt. The cave is nearly 3,000 meters above sea level in the country's Astillero Mountains. The gravel on top of the tools has been carbon dated between 57,000 years old. The cave would have likely been used by humans on infrequent occasions as there were very few tools discovered. The speculation for this is that North America was probably extremely dangerous during the last ice age, and the cave may have been used to hide out dangerous storms and blizzards. However, not all scientists believe the claims about humans arriving in the Americas earlier. It's possible that the tools were shifted below older gravel due to geological activity, burrowing animals, or other sorts of activity. In addition, besides the tools, there was very little else found that implied humans inhabited the cave. One claim goes so far as to say that those living in the cave may have been a lost group. They didn't survive to contribute to the modern gene pools and perished in the cave or nearby. However, it's still very possible that there existed societies and humans who reached the Americas well before we initially realized it. This is only one example of a potential group of inhabitants that are considered to have lived there earlier than many others. The cave is still being explored, and it's unknown what might be discovered with more time and effort put into the research. Between all the things we research, all the history we have lived through, and all the places that we can travel to, there are countless discoveries being worked on each day across a number of fields, subjects, and niches. From mysteries that have loomed for decades to revelations about our planet, there are so many discoveries that could be of interest. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look at 3 recent discoveries you may not have heard about. Earth's vital signs are now code red. It's no secret that the planet has been suffering. We all know that the climate crisis is becoming a topic of increasing concern. Whether you think this is an issue each individual needs to work to fix or think the responsibility should lie with industries first and foremost, we are all certainly aware that the planet is in danger. In October 2022, a report has come forth from a team of international scientists issuing a harrowing look at where we are regarding this environmental catastrophe. There are 35 so-called vital signs that are used to take measurements and track the climate change the planet is undergoing. This report told us that 16 of these 35 have been rated as code red, introducing new extremes. Simply put, this is the worst that we have ever seen on the planet. The words climate crisis once seemed fairly abstract, a scary concept that we knew of but had little impact upon us. Though that no longer seems to be the case. Each year, we see more and more climate disasters, and without taking action, these will continue to increase with each passing year. 2022 has already seen greater waves of extreme heat than many other years, being on track to become one of the hottest years that we have on record. We have seen wildfires, a huge amount of tree loss, the worst drought that Europe has seen in 5 centuries, a heat wave that reached dangerous temperatures to lives in India and Pakistan, dust storms throughout the Middle East, and so many other events that have ruined lives, landscapes, and homes. Christopher Wolfe, an ecologist with Oregon State University, pledged to other researchers saying, "We implore our fellow scientists to join us in advocating for research-based approaches to climate and environmental decision-making." Salim al-Haq, a sustainability scientist from the independent University Bangladesh, explained that climate change is not an issue to be looked at in isolation, saying, "It is part of a much larger systematic problem of ecological overshoot, where human demand is exceeding the regenerative capacity of the biosphere. Some have predicted that by the year 2100, we will see a further temperature rise by 3 degrees Celsius, meaning that the planet will be the hottest that it has been in approximately 3 million years. Mystery of strange sonar blip heard near Titanic wreckage is finally solved. We all know of the tragedy of the Titanic, the famous unsinkable ship that sunk. Throughout the years, historians and researchers alike have been down to the shipwreck diving and exploring. Paul Henry Nagiol has seen the Titanic shipwreck 30 times, one of which has become particularly noteworthy. In 1998, Nagiol recorded what has been dubbed a sonar blip, close by to the wreckage of the Titanic. It has been decades, and we remained clueless as to what this strange blip was. And so it remained unidentified, a mystery. There were plenty of possibilities as to what might have been behind this blip. Many theorized that it could have been another shipwreck or even some sort of geological feature. Decades later, we finally have the answer. It was a 2022 trip to the shipwreck that Nagiol and his research team at last uncovered the origin of this blip. The team found a deep-sea reef filled with marine life. This was a volcanic formation, and it has been found to be home to plenty of different sea life. This news is so fresh that we don't know exactly what it is that has been discovered. With plenty of images, videos, and general footage to search through, this discovery is far from complete. During their dive, the researchers spotted sponges, corals, different fish, and lobsters amongst other creatures. The basalt ridge, where all this wonderful sea life was found, has been named the Narciol Fanning Ridge for the time being. Named after Narciol and Oysen Fanning, who was the mission specialist during this expedition. Researchers hope to be able to observe how the different organisms interact, are distributed, and what kinds of creatures can thrive in this sort of space. By looking at this and then forming comparisons to other underwater ecosystems, we should be able to learn a lot more about deep-sea environments. It's important to research these ecosystems now, not solely out of interest, but also in the sense of preservation, as we know the climate crisis can have a negative impact upon these systems. Hidden oasis of life discovered under the Maldives. Lots of research out there has focused on looking for life in new places, though a good deal of that research and what we might generally think of involves scouring the skies, searching for alien life on distant planets. What we don't realize is that there is plenty of life tucked away in the corners of our planet, hiding away in unexpected places, and that this search for life could start much closer to home. In October 2022, a team of what has been dubbed aquanauts found an oasis for deep ocean life in the water desert of the Maldives. This submarine mission unveiled a new ecosystem thriving and up until recently had not been documented nor had many similar. This ecosystem, nicknamed the Trapping Zone, was found by a deep water seamount. It reaches 500 meters in depth and is where some of the large fish gather and eat microscopic nekton, a tiny organism that can be likened to zooplankton. Microscopic nekton swim between the surface of the ocean and the waters about 1 kilometer deeper, creating what is essentially a wave of migration when the larger fish follow their movements to eat. This research, the Nekton Maldives mission, is the first time we have mapped this area. Now we have a systematic map of the deep waters found in the Maldives and through to the southwest of Sri Lanka and India. The international research team found the ecosystem by Satarha Deep Sea Mountain, as they were led right to it thanks to the movement of the micronekton. Micronekton swim downwards, but by the sunken seamount where there are several volcanic ridges and fossilized reefs that have sat there for tens of millions of years around the point where the micronekton seemingly stop heading downwards. Instead of their usual depths, they are trapped at about 500 meters, leaving them exposed for predators who live in the trapping zone. These can be schools of tuna, sharks, or deep water fish, all of which are known to hang around in this dangerous spot. The research team made use of the Omega Seamaster 2, a submarine that looks like a glass bubble. This allowed them to watch firsthand as they saw this ecosystem in action. Finding this ecosystem is thrilling, but the most exciting part was the diversity within it. During their search, the team managed to spy a great deal of different species, even those that were relatively rare to see. Lucy Woodall, a marine scientist from the University of Oxford, explained that this discovery could be highly beneficial to scientists, letting us all understand what goes on in the deep ocean that little bit more. She said, "Why is this occurring? Why is there something that's specific at 500 meters? Does this life go even deeper? What is this transition? What is there? And why?" Having seen this ecosystem in the Maldives, we can assume that other ocean islands with similar underwater structures to them could also be homes to ecosystems not dissimilar to that seen within the trapping zone. Some have suggested that the seamounts and submerged volcanoes are areas with such high diversity within them are such hotspots and thriving centers because of how they affect the micronectin, bringing a high supply of food. Something that has been a great cause for concern to researchers is the way the micronectin can survive with the climate crisis. Recent climate reports suggest they aren't thriving quite so well. Without the micronectin, we are likely to lose the fish, birds, and mammals that eat them.